Okay, Acts 23. We are in the middle of a massive story that legitimately is going to take us to the end of Acts. And it's really interesting that it started the week that Gracie taught. So this story that starts in Acts chapter 21 actually does not end until Acts 28. So this is all one big piece. Granted, it's like all one story, but this particular issue that the Jews in Jerusalem have with Paul is going to take us into, or all the way through the end of chapter 28, the end of the book of Acts. So last week we covered the fact that Paul is in trouble. The Jews are like, yo, we want to kill him right now, today. Kill this dude. What's up, dog? Kill him. And the Romans are like, cool, all right, whatever, we'll flog this guy. And then Paul's like, but hold up. Is it lawful for you to flog a Roman without a trial? And then the guy's like, what? You're a Roman? He's like, yeah, I am. He's like, dang, I'm scared now because I can't do that. We have a process for those who are Roman citizens. So I can't just beat you up and then get you in trouble. So we have to do due process. So this is where we pick the story up in chapter 23. Because Paul says, hey, I want to talk to these guys again tomorrow. And the tribune says, cool, that's fine. We'll get to the bottom of why you are in trouble. And so that is where we pick up today's story. And we'll start with verse 30 from chapter 22. It says, but on the next day, desiring to know the real reason, English are hard, desiring to know the real reason why he was being accused by the Jews, he, the tribune, unbound him and commanded the chief priests and all the council to meet, and he brought Paul down and set him before them. Verse 1 of chapter 23 says, and looking intently at the council, Paul said, brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience up to this day. And the high priest, Ananias, commanded those who stood by to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. Are you sitting to judge me according to the law, and yet contrary to the law, you order me to be struck? Then verse 4 says, those who stood by said, would you revile God's high priest? And Paul said, I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest. For it is written, you shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. So, go. Yeah.
Is this Ananias, the high priest that met Jesus when he was born? Or is that a different guy?
I don't know. We can Google it. Boom. Look at this. The great theological tool, Google.
With our new.
With our new Wi-Fi. Look at us. Look at us. Let's see. This is so cool because all right.
Disappointed. Jesus' type is not the password for the Wi-Fi.
Hashtag Jesus is tight. Capital J. Yeah.
And we capitalize.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Jesus is tight. It's like weak, but you put a hashtag with a capital J and they're like strong. So we all know how that goes.
Last week, he was like, it's not working, and I was like, well, you have to hashtag. He's like, I did. And I said, did you capitalize the J? Because we capitalize Jesus.
Yes, we do capitalize Jesus at Oasis. This does not look like they are the same. It is Wikipedia, but let me see. So this was Ananias, son of Nedibus. And Jesus.
I found it.
You found it?
Yeah, in the Bible, actually.
Mhm.
Annas and Caiaphas were the high priests.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just similar.
Yeah. And he, Caiphus, he was actually the same high priest who, when Jesus was on trial, was the one who ripped his robes. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the same. Ananias, not the same. Okay. So, one, Paul is here with the council. And before he can even say anything, the high priest is like, somebody punch this fool in his mouth. That's what he said, literally. He probably said something else, but, you know, he said punch it in his mouth, you know. It was in the, yeah, if it was in the streets, he was like, punch it a little in his mouth, you know. That's probably what he said. Anyway, here's the thing. Paul then responds, God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. So before we even get into all of this, I do want to point out real quick that there's a letter A next to whitewashed. And when we go to verse 3 in the middle of our cross-referencing, Matthew 23:27, we will go there real quick because this is not the first time this has been said to a high priest or a Pharisee or a Sadducee. Matthew 23:27. And this is Jesus speaking. All through Matthew chapter 23, he has gone off on the Pharisees and Sadducees, going off on them. Verse 27, he says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. That is what Jesus said to their faces. To their faces. Mind you, at this time, Jesus, they hate Jesus. They hate him. And so for Jesus to just go off on everybody was massive. Further, looking at the time period, because I think we're only like a year or two removed from Jesus dying on the cross at this point, Paul may have been part of this group that he is talking to, which is crazy. Because remember, Paul is there when Stephen is stoned, but Stephen is stoned literally like 8-9 weeks after Jesus dies and is resurrected. So we know that he took some time to study. He was here, he was there. And now we're like 2 years max away from Jesus dying on the cross, getting up out of the grave. And here Paul is using something that Jesus actually said to a lot of people who were there when Jesus said it to them the first time. Isn't that crazy? Further, whitewashed wall. Let's break this down. I found a article called First Century Insults on episcopalcafe.com. There you go. Whitewashed wall. What exactly is so insulting about that? Well, the prophet Ezekiel accused false prophets of acting like whitewashed, or more like mud plaster, covering a weak wall instead of actually repairing it. Jesus also accused the religious leaders in his day of being whitewashed. For you are like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside look beautiful, but on the inside they're full of bones, yada, yada, yada. Calling someone a whitewashed wall in Paul's culture was a sharp insult aimed at religious leaders for putting purity and a false sense of security ahead of authenticity and vision. So putting purity and a false sense of security ahead of authenticity and vision. The leaders. By calling him a whitewashed wall, Paul accuses Ananias of emphasizing a veneer of righteousness rather than a foundation of faith. That makes sense? In short, he calls him a hypocrite in front of everybody. You hypocrite, because you are here to judge me according to the law, but also you are disrespecting or stepping outside of the law to have someone hit me. That's crazy. There was another. Yeah. Whitewash means to have covered up dirt or some other thing to hide it. A whitewashed wall is a dirty wall whose dirt has been covered up by a thin coat of white paint or some other coloring material. Which then led me, and this is a tangent, I promise we're gonna get back to the chapter. But I was like, yo, what is the equivalent of these things today? You know, like essentially, was Paul cussing at these dudes? And further, was Jesus cussing at these dudes when he called them a brood of vipers in chapter 23 of Matthew? Long story short, kinda. I actually found a whole article that was like Christians and swearing, where should we stand? I will read you the last paragraph because it was pretty interesting what this guy had to say. One, he points out what Jesus says, and he says, you brood of vipers, and he goes, you could probably figure what that would translate to today. Just feel the anger and let it fly and see what happens type situation. And then he says in Philippians 3, where Paul says, indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. For his sake, I have suffered the loss of all things and count them as rubbish in order that I may gain Christ. We all know and understand rubbish is trash. He says, I count it all as loss. But he says here, the word rubbish is skubala, which means more than just rubbish. The word can be translated, check this out, as excrement, waste, trash. So we also, and it says, have a modern equivalent of this word. So Paul in the Bible says, I count everything that I have gained as shit for knowing Christ, which is probably the best sentence that you could tell anybody in your whole life. Yo, it's a bunch of shit. It is. I love Jesus. And so then at the end of this article, he says, as Christians, I think what we need to see as most important is glorifying God with our words. Swear words can add to our message. I've even heard swear words used in sermons to send a message. That would not be the same without it. Sometimes we can say swear words because that is the best way to summarize the way we feel. I believe that Christians can swear, but I do not think that Christians should cuss like a sailor. We should be smart about how we use them. We are called to live in this world, but to live above the way the world lives. We've been given an incredible gift of speech. We should be smart and choose what we say wisely. Know who your audience is and know what the people around you will think when they hear you say swear words. So there's that. Little tidbit, little tangent. But that's what happens when you start studying. You're like, oh, I have a natural question. Is it cool if I say I count everything that I am as a person as shit for knowing Jesus? Yes, I know. Catch you off guard, right? Because like we're in church. But if that's what Paul legitimately says, that's what he legitimately says.
Like, isn't there a verse where it's like the tongue is the hardest thing to tame? And like, when you are with Jesus, it's like
James.
It's tamed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you can say these words. It's not like you can go up to someone and be like,
Correct. And at the end of the day, legitimately, what it comes down to is motive of heart.
yeah.
It is motive of heart every single day, every single moment of your life. What am I trying to convey? And is what I am trying to convey something that is legitimately going to tear somebody down and speak something over their life that should not be spoken of? Or am I actually edifying the body of Christ and this person or whatever I'm talking about? That is the question. That is what is always comes back to every single time. So there's that little tangent, but we had to go there because I was interested as we were going along and or as I was studying this week. So anyway, Paul says to him, God is going to strike you. So he said, yo, hit this dude in his mouth. And Paul said, God's going to hit you in your mouth, you hypocrite. There's a lot of things else I was going to say. We're not going to go there. But y'all can feel it, right? A little, you know, Paul's ready to go off. You know what I'm saying? So then they say to him, yo, are you going to talk bad about the high priest? Which, again, as we know, Paul is born a Jew. And Paul has said this many times. I know the law, up, down, sideways, in, out. Duh, he knows that he should not talk bad about the high priest. So what does Paul say? My bad. I didn't know he was the high priest. My fault. Now, some people think that Paul, some people say the way Luke wrote this was kind of like to cover up for Paul, because like he wanted to make Paul look better than he was, because he did step outside the law to talk about the high priest. But then some people are like, yo, he was beat up. Maybe he couldn't see, or maybe the high priest wasn't in his high priest clothes. Either way, none of that matters. The high priest is a hypocrite. We all know this. And this is what Paul calls out. So then, jumping into verse 6, it says, now when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, this is cool. Another thing of using who you are and knowing who your audience is. Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees. He cried out in the council, brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. It is with respect to the hope and the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial. And when he had said this, a dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge them all. Then a great clamor arose, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' party stood up and contended sharply, we find nothing wrong in this man. What if a spirit or an angel spoke to him? And when the dissension became violent, the tribune, afraid that Paul would be torn to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him away from among them by force and bring him into the barracks. So last week we saw Paul looks out. He goes, yo, these are all Jews. Let me talk to them like they're Jews. So he starts to speak Hebrew to them. Hey, guys, I am a Jew. I love Jesus. I love God, just like you. I defend the law. I am zealous, just like you. I would fight me too. Remember that time I stood there when Stephen got stoned? Remember that time I was going to Damascus? I was going to put people in jail for talking about Jesus. I am just like you. He tries to relate, and he does, up until the point where he says, hey, the Gentiles deserve Jesus too. And then they're like, nah, bump that. That's not fair. So then Paul does this again. He sees that in the Jewish council, there are Pharisees and Sadducees. If anybody knows how much they fight against each other, it's going to be Paul. And so what does Paul do? Paul, being the smart one, like Devin on The Challenge. Anybody watch The Challenge on MTV? Devin, I'm just here to make some mess. I'm thinking, I'm 2 steps ahead. Let me get out of this. So, hey, bye. What does he say? I am a Pharisee. It is with the respect to the hope and the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial, knowing for a fact that the Pharisees and the Sadducees would immediately begin to fight amongst each other, and he would be able to move out of the way. Paul literally played them, and they didn't even realize that he was playing them. Again, going back to last week where we said, using everything that you are,
Still true.
it was still truth. Yes.
It's just a play.
It wasn't just a play. It's using legitimately who you are to your advantage. In every room that you are in every place that you are in, God has given you very specific things for where you are.
It's like the things that we think make us disqualified to become a Christian will also help us be the Christian.
Yes, exactly. Every single time. We look at and we talked all about it last week. I look at myself and I see where I don't measure up. And again, that's a fake line that we, like put together. Like, if you're like, I don't dress nice. I'm like, I am not trying to wear jeans to church all winter. Like, why would I do that? They're joggers for a reason. Comfortability. Like, so throw that one out the way. Like, if you're like, oh, I don't dress nice enough to teach. Neither do I. Like, I'm trying not to dress nice. But legitimately, everything that you are as a person, everything that God has created you to be, can be used to your advantage in Him in every situation. That makes sense? So, the tribune freaks out because he's like, man, these people are crazy. They're about to fight. Let's take him out of here. I actually wrote, Paul uses who he is to his advantage, knowing that the Romans are going to protect him in this moment. Here's what's crazy. If Paul is only Jewish, not born in a free Roman state, he's dead. Think about it. They would have flogged him and they probably just would have whipped him to death if he was Jewish only, right? If he's only Roman, then he then does not know the difference between the Pharisees and the Sadducees to actually have them fight so he can get out of the way. That's crazy. He literally needed the knowledge of all of that to to continue doing what God called him to do. I think that's crazy. Verse 11 says, the following night, the Lord stood by him and said, take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, you must testify also in Rome. This is going to be the meat of everything that we talk about today. So I'm just going to highlight the rest of this chapter real quick. And then we're going to break this down because this is really what I need everybody to walk away with today. So then the next day, the Jews make a plot. We are going to ask if Paul can be taken from here to there so that we can meet with him again. And when they are taking him on the way, we're going to jump him and we're going to kill him. It's 40 of us. And they were like, we are not going to eat or drink until Paul is dead. Paul's nephew hears this, comes and tells Paul of the ambush. Paul then says, go tell this to the tribune. The centurion takes the nephew to the tribune and says, hey, they want to ambush you guys and they want to kill Paul. Please don't do that. And then the tribune says, cool. What we'll do then is we will send him uber protected, chariots, horses, guards, the whole nine. And then they send him to Felix, the governor. And it says, verse 31, so the soldiers, according to their instructions, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day, they returned to the barracks, letting the horsemen go on with him. When they had come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they presented Paul also before him. On reading the letter, he asked what province he was from. And when he learned that he was from Cilicia, he said, I will give you a hearing when your accusers arrive. And he commanded him to be guarded in Herod's praetorium. So not only does Paul get out of Jerusalem, where the Jews are trying to kill him, but now he is protected by Roman, what's the word I'm looking for? Higher ups. Citizenship. They're legitimately now protecting him. And they sent a lot of people to make sure that he was protected. And Felix, the governor, is going to hear out his case when the high priest and the rest of the council get there. So crazy thing about this, verse 11. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, "Take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, so you must testify also in Rome." This is the meat and potatoes of all of this today. When we get to chapter 28, literally, we're in chapter 23 right now. It is not until chapter 28, verse 17, 16, like the last half of the chapter, of the last chapter of the book, Paul finally gets to Rome. It's literally 2.5 years from the moment God says, "You have testified for me in Jerusalem, you will then testify for me in Rome." It's 2.5 years. I'm going to say that again. 2.5 years. And we're going to look at all of it. He gets on a boat at some point. The boat crashes. He's in jail most of this time. He's handcuffed. And all the while, through this entire process, he is giving people Jesus up until he gets into Rome, where then they put him on house arrest, and he continues to give people Jesus from his house. On house arrest, people just come to his house so he can give them Jesus. That's how that's how the book of Acts ends. Spoiler alert, so sorry. But that was one thing that stuck out to me, because for whatever reason, we hear a promise from God. We hear God say something, somebody tells us there's something God said, or whatever the case may be. And what do? We get frustrated because it didn't happen the next week. If you are Paul, like I would say 99% of us, if we are Paul in this situation and we're like, okay, cool, I'm going to go to Rome. I could see it taking 6 months. All right, cool. Process, trials, got to get to people. Okay, 2.5 years. Literally in chapter 27, the ship just explodes on this island. And then they're just on the island for 3 months. On the island for 3 months. Shipwrecked. And this is after he sat with another Roman higher up for 2 years. 2 years. Can you imagine? You're already bound for something that you didn't really even do. You're already arrested. And here God says, hey, good job. Good job. I'm so proud of you. You did exactly what I need you to do. And now I'm going to make sure that you do it in Rome. And we go, okay, cool. All right. I'm ready. Let's go. And so then a month passes and we're like, when am I supposed to go to Rome? Another month passes. When am I supposed to go to Rome? It's been 6 months. When am I supposed to go to Rome? Now it's 9 months. And now I'm like, Jesus, can I even plan a vacation? Like, can I do other things because you said? And we just live in this space of like, God said it, so it's going to happen now. But go and look at every promise that God has given you. Every time you were in the middle of worship and you heard something that you were like, what? Every time you've been in somewhere and somebody says, hey, I just think God wanted me to tell you this. Hey, I see this. Hey, whatever it may be. Joy comes in the morning and we're like, it's 6 a.m. Where's my joy, Lord? You know what I'm saying? And the one thing that I kept hearing this week when I was thinking about this verse was slow down. Slow down. Slow down. I would have quit. I don't know. Jesus has done a work in me. Because I go, even now, when we got the prophecy that we were going to start the church, that was March 2016. We didn't start Oasis until September 2017. That's a year and a half. Straight up. A year and a half. And there are tons of things that Jenny and I have heard since then that still have not happened yet. And there are a lot of things, for example, hey, you guys are going to travel. Take your kids with you. You know how long it takes to have 2 kids? At least 18 months. At least. Just on like straight math, like basic, like general accepted by society, it's going to take you at least a year and a half to have 2 kids. And if we throw in, if it's twins, we still got to talk recovery time. You know what I'm saying? So we still like 18 months. Like, it's like if you sit in a restaurant with 2 kids under the age of 5, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you want me to travel?
You're like, I can't even leave my house.
You know what I'm saying? Literally just told my mom, hey, are y'all coming for Thanksgiving? No, Mom, we are tired of traveling with the kids. It's a lot. She said, well, what do you guys do to them that it's a lot for them to travel with you guys? I said, so like it's still some time for those things to happen. So God said, that was a chair. I didn't fart. Y'all know me. I would tell you if I farted. I would. Dang, they're going to watch this on YouTube and be like, what is happening at this church? Anyway, so many prophecies. We can't even do things if we don't have kids yet. Part of that was Jenny's mom being retired. So those 3-4 years, well, when is God going to do it? When is God going to do it? When is God going to do it? She's not even retired yet. You can't do anything. But now she is. We're one step closer. Hey, pay all your debt off. Oh, we got money now. We can start doing some things. We can start moving some things around. Oh, okay. Slow down. He said, I am going to send you to Rome so that you can testify about me. And Paul is, again, oh, he hears that there's going to be an ambush. Oh, yeah, this is my ticket. I'm going to Rome. Let's go. 2.5 years. And God himself told him that. It's red letters. It was actually Jesus. Nail prints. 2.5 years, man. So any and everything that you have ever heard about Jesus, slow down. Gracie said it 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. When you just spend time with Jesus, the more this makes sense. That was a gem, by the way. The more time you spend with Jesus, the more this will make sense. The more peace you will have, the easier it will be to wait and to just make sure that you are prepared when the time comes.
The process is part of the sending.
Yes.
The thing that he told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
Mm-hmm.
The process to get to it is part of it.
Yes.
This is important.
Because, so let's say Paul, and again, we're looking into these 2.5 years. Let's say Paul goes straight to Rome, right? Well, now he's on house arrest. So Paul may be sitting there going, I just can't give people Jesus at my house. But literally, he had 2.5 years in handcuffs where he was like, I can't go anywhere else. I might as well give everybody Jesus while I'm here. Whoever wants Jesus, he's for free. So then by the time he does get to Rome, he's like, oh, this is easy. I'm at my house. I'm at my house now. I just can't leave here. This is cool. Okay, yeah. I'm not even in shackles anymore. I'm just at my house. But if he goes from here to his house, I know I would be upset. I can't even leave. Now I got to get a Twitter. I I got to get on Instagram, business page, got to post reels so people can see that I'm engaged.
Hashtag free rate.
Hashtag free Rafer. You know what I'm saying? I got to do all this other stuff now to make sure that people are getting Jesus. But literally, this process has built him. I wasn't even thinking this until you walked in. Literally, she was given a prophecy of a baby. Heaven come. 2019? 2019. She don't have no babies. Yo, boom, boom. It was Carrie Job, by the way. So if you want Nani's autograph, because she was prayed for by Carrie Job, then by all means. I mean, Jen Johnson did pray for me too, if you want my autograph. But, I mean, whatever. Anyway, she didn't tell me I was going to have a baby because I was like, thank you, Jesus. We don't want more. But anyway, neither here nor there. Process. The thing you've been praying for is still going to take at the least 9 months to get here.
Can I add a tag on that?
Go ahead.
So in that prophecy, she told me, yes, that I would not have one baby, but babies. And also in that message, she was saying that I was coming from a long line of like depression, mental illness, possibly things with my thyroid being wrong. And she told me that these things were done, you know, like that God has healed me and that I'm sorry, guys, because I'm still in a waiting period. And so it's even something to talk about. So while, yes, God did come through and I have Cameron, like what stuck with me is that she told me that I wouldn't, she didn't say that I wouldn't struggle with mental illness. She didn't say that. That's what I took from it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I took from it. I thought, oh, I'm going to have a baby. I'm not going to be depressed anymore. I'm not going to suffer from postpartum. Because he promised, guys. And that's not been my journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been my journey. I'm seeing doctors. I've talked to, you know, like, so, but what I'm learning is that he's working through me and that I'm learning that even if I can't, because there's a chemical imbalance in my brain, he's going to equip me to deal with this and to break a generational curse so that my kids don't have to suffer from this the way that I have suffered. And just have a different perspective on it. So guys, as much as Carrie Job did, like, she prayed over me and God has promised and given me one baby. I'm waiting on others, but I can wait. He's still these other promises that were pocketed in this prophecy. I'm still in the waiting for those. I'm still in the waiting for those. And so it's not just that we're going to magically walk out of these things. Guys. We're not magically going to do it. And I've learned different ways through, like, you know, just my walk with him on what that looks like. And I come back and I lose again. And, like, you know, it's just constant. But just don't lose hope, guys. Just stay the course, and it's not quick by any means. You know, and
it's not.
Like Battle was saying, that the process is so much a part of this. Because what are we learning in those processes? We're learning to be good people. We're learning to be patient. We're learning to be
trust.
kind. We're learning to trust. We're learning not to measure ourselves against other Christians, this outside world. And it's beautiful, guys. It's hard, but it's beautiful. To have this, like, self-knowing and to just, like, be able to point that all back to him and say thank you. Like, thank you. Because when I don't know how I can get through a day, that's all I do is just
strictly
go back, multiple times a day. So just keep the hope.
Danielle was the same. When we started Dave Ramsey, I said, hey guys, take your smallest debt, pay it off, you can see some wins. Danielle looked at me in my face and said, well, that is not going to happen because my smallest debt is $4,000. Was it $4,000? Something like that. So I'm not even going to see a small win yet.
It's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I was like, okay, that's between you and Jesus, but okay. 2 weeks later, she was like, yo, I sold my car. I don't have no debt no more. Right?
It's a win.
So then she goes, yo, I think I'm gonna do nursing school. I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know, but I feel like this is just where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. And literally, 2 days before school started, she was still getting money in, stressing out. But then she would call me, dude, listen. Dude, I just gotta tell you, God is like, and everything was right in the timing that it needed to be. Every single piece. Every single time. And all the time I would say, yo, relax. Relax, he got you. But he does. If he puts it into your heart, if he puts it into your heart legitimately, he is going to make the way for it to happen. Every single time. This is what he does. It's who he is. We take the promises and we do whatever we do with them. In that case, I'm going to do nursing school. Okay, Lord, this is how much it costs. I need one check. You know what? Just direct deposit it. Boom. Get it done. 4 months in advance. Go ahead.
Based off of that, nursing school was put on my heart years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago. But I already have a 4-year bachelor's degree, and I was like, no, I spent all this money, I got this 4-year degree when I could have gone right out of high school into the nursing program.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like a very big mental hurdle. I was like, no, because I felt like I was wasting, like I wasted my time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, I wouldn't change it. I love it so much, but like I've been thinking of nursing for years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. And I was like, no, I can't do it because I need to work, I need to pay bills. How do I do this?
Mm-hmm. Literally. Every single time.
And I think part of the process is to give you a testimony or to
Yeah.
so you can connect with people when you're telling your story. 'Cause,
What?
It's like they always make the jokes like when you go work out, like your trainer's like super skinny and super fit, like I'm over here like overweight. Like, you are not connecting with me. You're French and you're sitting in your bench and you're trying to tell me like you just gotta work harder. Your hands aren't even calloused. What do you mean work harder? Like, and so like you said it like from the Bible, like when it talks about like he spoke in their language.
Mm-hmm.
He had his stories to like level himself with.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to connect with you when you've been through it. Like,
Bingo.
when you've done it, when you're struggling, when you're dealing with whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for me to connect with you in that same.
Every time.
New parents here, like we all got like young kids, and we struggle and we struggle.
Bruh.
But we can connect with each other because we get it. Like we all know on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
We're all there together. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the struggle. That's why you don't get to just go from point A to point B.
Correct.
Without the rest of the alphabet.
Correct.
All the hurdles.
Yes. Every single time. And that is the beauty of it. Slow down. Slow down and trust him.
Okay, this is my point.
Go ahead. Your turn.
Or the Holy Spirit, but I feel like I need to tell something. Part of the process of getting through that depression is seeing your kids struggle so you become stronger. And I mean, I just feel like I have to do that because that is because you don't want that generational curse to carry over, you're showing them, no, this is what a mental or chemical balance feels like, but this is how you get through.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it may not manifest till they're adults, like what I am going through right now, but also I've always heard in the church, the older women minister to the younger women, and I never was like, I was like, okay, whatever, and God, why do you have me here? But I feel like that connection, that's part of the process too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea if that just made sense. I've had too much caffeine. I don't know.
Jesus in the building.
But I do know that my heart's like, boom, 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 and that's when the Holy Spirit's doing it.
Yes, that was me last week in communion.
Right here, right here.
Uh-huh. Oh.
I'm off on this one. You guys know that he's here.
Yeah.
Or if I start doing this in my clothes.
This is what I love, man.
Well, and I think further, like, Jesus has put it on my heart that, like, that connection piece, I don't think that she knew that that's what he's been telling me to do. Like, build these small groups. Like, you know what I mean? With music, like, there's been things that have kind of, like, come to a point and then kind of burned or sizzled out or whatever, and it's just come to a point where it's like, he's honestly putting on my heart, like, it's gonna make or break this, like, I'm trying to connect you with people, and I'm trying to, like, ripple this out further than just you and your own to, like, hoard it all to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not a giver of time, you know what I mean? So
Oh, I understand.
that, like, I'm currently learning in the promise, like, in the middle of the promise is that, you know, I'm not doing it by myself. I don't have to do it by myself.
Yep.
And I have brothers and sisters in Christ that are literally there anytime.
Because we're all in the same boat. Everybody. How many people right now in the last 3 months have been praying to God for something specifically? You've been talking to him about it, going back and forth. When, how, I don't see how this is going to work. What is it? Stay right there. Slow down. 2.5 years. I pray for whatever you're praying for. It does not take 2.5 years, especially if it's like your kids growing up. Like, when are they just going to feed themselves, you know? It's like 2.5 years, Jesus, you know?
Try it
The physicality changes, but you're still feeding these kids. You still, Yeah, and don't pick patience either. That's a good one. But legitimately, I told Jenny this, the first message we heard at Heaven Come 2016, the first message that we heard was Mary being told that she was going to give birth to Jesus. And the story ends with the writer saying, and Mary treasured these things in her heart. And I don't know why that stuck out to me so big. 2 days later, it made sense when I got this life-changing prophecy. Because then it was like, oh, well, if I got nothing else, then I will just treasure these things in my heart. And I'm just going to hold on to them. And until they happen, I will just be holding on to them. Because God said it. And if God said it, literally, the only person that can get in the way of that not happening is me. And if he really wanted to, he would keep me out of the way so that it could still happen.
Yeah, he's still going to do it.
He's still going to.
Abraham and
Yes.
like, all of them, like, their lives were not stainless. Like,
No.
He had to, like, legit put himself, kept making himself female because they were like outright defiant.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, for him to still bless them,
Yeah.
all of the things, like,
Well, we're going to have communion. I know you're like, where is it? Well, I got to set it up. But no, because I got a song that we're going to listen to. And I was going to put this song on last week, and I didn't. And then I realized, I was like going through, I had like 3 songs I was going to put, and I was like, know what? I'm just going to do Out of Hiding last week. And then this week I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this song. And looking at the conversation that we've had today and the study, Jesus is super tight. Jesus is super tight. So he's super tight. So listen to the words of this song, get into it, and we will take communion after the song is over. Cool?